Cashiers of Reddit, what was the worst time you blew up on a customer? I was working at a coffee shop in a busy downtown area. There was a businessman that was notorious for being abusive with our staff. One morning he came in and ordered a coffee and a cranberry scone. We happened to be out of cranberry scones that day. And when I informed him of this, he flew off the handle and started swearing at me. I looked him square in the eye and said, "You're a grown man throwing a temper tantrum over a cranberry scone. Sort your life out." I then calmly turned to the next customer. The next day he apologized and was never a problem again. At a pawn shop. A lady paid me with a $20 and I gave her change. She flipped up because she knew she'd given me a $100 bill. She screamed, cursed, and called me every name in the book. Just lost her mind. The whole time. She's saying she knew she paid with a $100 bill but she'd just put one in her wallet earlier. I asked her repeatedly to just check her wallet then to see if the $100 bill was still there or not. She just kept yelling she didn't need to check because she knew she'd given it to me. Eventually she checked and all the anger just blew out of her. She was mortified. The $100 bill was there. Bitch. I work at Disney World. One time I had a particularly rude guest. In the end I told them to have a great day. Not a magical day. This wasn't me. But I was involved. When I was in high school I worked at a shoe store. The one with that F-King prize wheel from hell. We did this buy one get one half off sale all the time. The way it works is you buy a more expensive pair and you get the cheaper of the two half off. Otherwise we'd lose money. So this woman comes in and buys 2 pair of kids shoes. Looks at the receipt and thinks that $50 is too much for her smaller child. So she returns them. She then proceeds to flip out because the difference for the other pair came out of the refund. I called the manager and he came up and she says he's a foster kid. He's not worth a $50 pair of shoes. Stop trying to rob me and give me my F-King money. So manager refunded her the entire bill and took both pair of shoes and walked off. We all gave her the silent treatment until she left. Angrily. I feel bad for both children and her husband who were just standing there quietly. The day I quit my job last year. I knew in the morning I was quitting that day and in the morning one of the bitchiest customers came in complaining about a product not working. Yet again. This was just a regular occurrence that happened with this particular customer. After about half an hour I just told her to go and FCK herself and I couldn't be asked listening to her anymore. I then proceeded to call my boss and tell him I quit. When I worked at Subway in high school there was this guy in his 30s that came in with his wife almost every day. He was a dick and talked to you like an idiot. Not because he was in a bad mood either. Because he thought it was funny to be an ass to kids working fast food jobs. One day I had enough and took his sandwich I was in the middle of making and spiked it into the garbage can and told him to FCK off. He told me I couldn't talk to customers that way and I told him I just did, you retardee. He called the owner and dropped my name. We had name tags, and she told him that if I blew up on him like that it was probably deserved and asked him to not return. I for sure thought I was fired. Lucky for me the owner knew exactly what customer she was talking to and knew me good enough to know it takes salad to get me irritated and that I wouldn't do something like that for no reason. I don't know how fast food places find workers. People are so rude to them. It blows my mind. It's almost like some people go to fast food places with the mindset that they are going to be assholes. Oftentimes they can't find workers. Or they burn through them really quickly. The ones left are just the ones broken, desperate, or masochistic enough to stay. Source. I honestly don't remember this. But my coworkers do. And apparently was a customer yelled at me. Go to hell. And I yelled back. I'll see you there. My sis and I say this to each other a lot. For funsies. And it's the only reason I believe I may have said this to an inward customer. But one I did remember was a customer brought up a sandwich that apparently looked awful to her. She held it out to me and said, "Would you eat this?" And without missing a beat I said, "Yes." That shocked her into silence for a good few seconds. I was being honest. The sandwich looked fine to me. I work on customer services in a retail shop and have to do a lot of refunds. It's the store policy that we don't refund anything unless the customer has a receipt. So I have to deal with a lot of angry customers. If they really piss me off, when they walk off I do a tannoy reading out the policy so they hear it as they leave the shop. I only ever lost it on a customer once. When I was working at an office supply store. Customer was one of those self-important money pusher types. Came in during the lunch rush on a day when we were short-handed. He wanted to buy our phone. I normally would have helped him, but I was stuck on register. I did everything I could to help this guy anyway. When I was finally able to focus on him exclusively, he launched into a lecture along the lines of how he specifically was the most important person in the store. And I lost it. I barely remember what I said to guy. I know I tried to walk away first, but he pushed it. I ended up tearing into him so badly he basically ran from the store. And the assistant manager on duty was too stunned to do anything about the incident. I hated that job. Quit. Not long after. I had already put my 2 weeks in at the gas station when a woman comes with a van and tries to pump gas with the vehicle running. I tell her over the intercom to shut the engine off. She started to argue with me over the intercom and I just turned it off to deal with the small lineup inside. She comes inside and starts arguing with me. I calmly told her the rules are for safety, and if she wants to fuel while the engine is on, she can try another gas station. She starts screaming telling me I'm just being a bitch to ruin her day. I just snapped in front of everybody and yelled back, "Oh really? Am I in your place of business harassing you for following the rules so people don't FCKing explode?" To which all of the other customers laughed. She kept arguing back so I said fine. Go fill your tank. As soon as she was outside I locked the doors. I told the customers they could leave if they wished by pushing the black handle. Nobody did until the irate customer sped off. It wasn't me but I was part of it. This customer was eating our buffet for a sport game of some sort. It had wings, pretzels, mozzarella sticks, etc. This huge man comes in and he get a buffet. Him and his date eat about 5/6 plates worth of food. The guy came up to me and said the food was not that good and he was not willing to pay the $30-ish for the 2 buffets when it was no good. I then grabbed our manager, a total bada. He was awesome. I could tell stories about him all day, and he told him off so hard explaining that he had so much food and didn't complain when people checked on him, etc. The guy was so baffled that we didn't just straight up comp his meal, he didn't know what to say. If I remember correctly, this guy was on a date with a fairly new woman too. Great early impression he must have made. I work in an anime store in the mall. One of the things we have is a wall of Pop Funkus. This guy brought up like 10 to the register and was just being ridiculously impatient the entire time. Our cash register is a little more than a calculator, so punching in each thing can take some time. Before I even hand him his receipt, he shouts at me saying, "Can I get a FCKing bag?" So I said we don't have any. Watching him waddle out of the store with 10 pops stacked high made me feel better. I didn't blow up, but a customer screamed at me in front of the entire restaurant. She ordered a breakfast for her family on a Sunday, our busiest days, and told her there would be a 45-minute wait for such a huge order to go. She came in 10 minutes later furious we didn't have it ready yet. She was so angry that this was causing her to miss church. She ended up leaving after calling me. Cashiers are the ones who actually pack the food and bring it out for delivery. A string of names. Without the food. She came back in later at least and hugged me and told me she was sorry and said something along the lines of having a sick child. IDK. It was my last day of working in a common retail chain. 20 minutes before my shift ended, I was helping a middle-aged woman do a return and exchange with coupons. She was getting agitated because our coupon policies are very strict and she was giving me attitude. I looked at her straight in the eye and took a deep sigh. This is my last day. I'm supposed to leave in 5 minutes without smiling. She immediately became quiet and was way more cooperative. Never blew up that I can remember. But I do remember getting smug satisfaction once. This was a long time ago. I worked 1 hour photo at a CVS style store. We would take overflow at our register if the lines got too long. Lady comes up with a cart full of stuff and a large fistful of coupons. Whatever. I ring her up, process the coupons. The total is something over $100, something like $122. 35. She gets mad, says I messed up and gets pretty bitchy. After a little back and forth I void the whole transaction and start again. After every item this cat food rang at 89. Is that okay? After every coupon. You can see $1.00 came off, mom, is that correct? This must have took 15 minutes. At the end. As you can see the total is $122. 35 inches. She was furious. But couldn't say anything. It was glorious. I am 37 now. Have a child. 1 hour's photos don't exist, but I still think of my triumph. A woman wanted to butt in line to purchase a banana in a busy express accessible queue. I asked her to go take her proper place after budding a customer in a wheelchair and she said go to hell. I replied, after you. I've worked in a hardware store since I was 16, 21 in a few weeks. When I was about 17 I cut 2 keys for a guy. I'd been cutting keys for a while and so had the hang of it. I was told that he returned when I wasn't there. Told my colleagues that the keys didn't work. Shouting that I was a stupid little girl that didn't know what she was doing. I shouldn't be allowed to cut keys etc. My colleague was already pissed off but looked at the keys to see what the problem was. He had been trying the keys in the wrong locks. As in key A in lock B and key B in lock A. He left with his tail between his legs and has not returned since. As a young blonde girl I regularly get shitty like this. Proving them that I am far more clued up than they think I am is always satisfying though. Was a cashiers at a UK based company. Let's say it rhymes with Broysons. So there I am, first real day on the job. A woman in her mid-40s comes over and starts putting items on the belt. I ask politely, do you want any help bagging? She didn't answer me. So I ask again, do you want any help bagging? Slightly louder. She ignores me and I just scan the food and the end of the till is full, so I ask again, do want me to bag your items, mom? So she flips out and starts yelling and calls my manager over and she keeps arguing and pointing at me like I'm not there. So I lose my cool and just full on flip out on this woman. Right. I have asked you 3 times, do you want me to bag your stuff, and 3 times you ignored me, and the final time I ask you flip out at me and call the manager like I'm the arsehole here. What the hell is your problem? I was promptly let go and asked to clean out my locker. Fun times. Edit. Highest rated comment. I used to work at CVS. One day I had a customer who was incessantly complaining about how the toothpaste he was buying was a lot cheaper at Walmart. He even pulled out his phone and showed me a chart that compared the prices of it at different stores. I didn't blow up on him really. I just acted very uninterested and said go to Walmart. Then. I used to work with food. Sandwiches. Salads. Soups. I remember one time when the store was quiet. There were only a few guests and I had just made the salad for a lady. Apparently I made it wrong though, because she walks up to me and demands a new salad. I'm a bit dumbfounded cause the salad looks fine to me. So I ask her what is wrong with it. This bitch says you work here, you should know what's wrong with it. I tell her I don't, and if she tells me what's wrong with it I'll gladly make her a new salad. Mothefka rolls her eyes and goes, the avocado is supposed to be diced. She wanted me to make her a new salad because I put sliced avocado on her salad instead of diced. I worked in the tech shop at a computer. A customer came to the counter, was unhappy, and ended up spiting in my manager's face. My normally calm ex-army ranger manager reaches over the counter, grabbed the guy by the collar, and told him he has 10 seconds to leave the store or he will be leaving by ambulance. The general public is terrible. It blows my mind the type of person who thinks it's okay to spit on someone. That should damn near qualify as an assault charge in an individualistic world. Of course. Thought a guy was trying to pull the old "I gave you a $20 routine when I handed him back his change." We went back and forth. I demanded he turn out his pockets to prove he wasn't bullshitting me. Nearly came to blows. Turns out I dropped the $5 I owed him on the floor when I took the bills out of the drawer. I was super sleep deprived and didn't notice. I was the asshole. Sorry man. I was once a cashier at a smaller little store. I was doing my usual routine helping customers when this couple walks in. It was a slow day, so I just happened to notice them as I'm sort of walking around, asking if anyone needs help with anything. I see the couple from earlier just crashing their shopping cart into everything. We had this stand up that held almost 100 sunglasses and they just rammed right into it. I asked the lady why she did that and she just stares at me for a solid 5 seconds. Then spits in my face and flips me off. I lost my shitty. Nobody does that to me. IF King tackled a bitch. Serves her right. In the end they just ended up getting kicked out by my manager. I've been called piece of shitty many times because I refused transaction because I couldn't give them a rest. Well, that happens when everybody pays with 100s. One time a lady says it's my obligation to have pennies. Started yelling at me and screaming. She wanted to buy matches with $100 bill. I refused and said, nah bitch, it's not my obligation. I'm cashier, not F-King bank. And according to the law I actually can refuse in such scenarios. Poland. Was a grocery store cashier in high school. Had a dad and his toddler son come through my lane one afternoon. Racked up $302 in groceries and only had $300 at vouchers, so dad proceeds to tell his son that this man, me, says you can't take the bananas with you today. Annoyed, I decide this is my hill to die on at 16 and tell him that's not the case and to not lie to his son. That perhaps another item could be left behind so the son could have this bananas. It blows up and my manager tells me I have to apologize to the man or be fired. Walked out and never looked back. I don't qualify as a respondent, but I couldn't resist telling you about my old friend, Miss Francis. She worked at the drugstore next door to the office building where I worked. And we all shopped there so often their employees were just like our co-workers. Miss Francis was beloved for two things. 1. When she handed you your change, she said the exact same thing without fail. Just like she'd been doing for 40 years prior. 34 cents is yours, thank her and have a blessed day. 2. If any of the neighborhood crackheads, crazies, or jerks tried to give her any trouble, she would snatch the wig from atop her head and beat the shitty out of them with it until they ran out the door. Miss Francis could wield that wig like a ninja. And you could literally hear the pop 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 as each blow landed on her victim's head. It must be over 25 years since she retired. I hope she's happy and healthy somewhere. Blessing people's days and keeping the trifling ones in check. As a teen I worked in Morrison's, a UK supermarket. I was behind the deli counter and asked a customer, "What can I get you, sir?" He stared at me for ages, so I asked again. He unfolded her arms and said, "What? Do I look like a bloke with tits?" I was really embarrassed, but yes, she did. And spoke like one too. Luckily an elderly female colleague swooped in with grace and I was able to sneak off. Man came to my express 1-15 items line with a basket full of groceries. I asked him to count his items because, "I'm sorry, this is an express line." He responded with, "That's okay, you can count them." Now I was a fast cashier. People have better places to be than my grocery line. I could run up 25-30 items a minute with 100% accuracy. You better believe I went as slow as F-King possible to run up this guy's order. 3-5+ seconds per item. As he got progressively redder and redder, I finished the order with, "It's unfortunate how many people you've held up in the line, sir. Have a fantastic day." He called me an arsehole and stormed off. I apologized to every customer in the line for the wait and got them out in record time. It was a small victory, but it was my victory. Every other customer wore nothing but a smile on their face for me in that glorious moment.